Hello everyone, Forristicat back once more. It's been a while since my last video. Seeing as the season 4, mid-season has wrapped up today of, not Game of Thrones, of The Walking Dead, I thought great opportunity to put out a video talking about the season as a whole. This review is going to be sort of fairly non-structured as all my reviews are. But nevertheless, I want to sort of put forward my thoughts as always when they're fresh in my head. So, obviously that season finale was pretty good, and I think that when you're reviewing things, your initial reaction to things is usually like your best sort of reaction, like the actual truthful one. And that's not to say that when you sort of watch stuff sort of more than once, that if it sort of grows on you that you should discount that. But nevertheless, I think that if something can sort of impact you straight away the first time, whoever is putting forth that bit of fandom is doing something right. So I guess my main sort of frustration with this season is really the last sort of 2 episodes. So this episode sort of 6 and 7, and some other people have said this as well. It seemed like a little bit of a waste, and I think that this is sort of the problem you run into when you're sort of exchanging showrunners all over the place. You get a sort of disjointed, clunky feel, and that's okay. You know, obviously the turnover of a new season when your showrunners are exchanging hands, obviously there's going to be sort of a different theme and a feel, and that's obviously why the producers of this show opt to change for something new, to sort of give the show a different flavor. And starting off season 4, straight away you get a sort of a different feel for this show. Everything is sort of going towards a much more darker sort of depressing state. There's a lot more sort of cramped spaces, and that's sort of where I think the people were saying that, you know, we're trying to bring back horror this season of The Walking Dead. I think that's what they were going for. The fact that you've got pardon me, walled open fields, there's no drama whatsoever. You know, you can just sort of run away, but as soon as you start having closed spaces in the dark, that's when things get pretty freaky, because that's when, at least with me, I sort of imagine myself in that situation. I'm like, okay, damn, you know, if I actually sort of go in there, I'm actually going to sort of be attacked by a zombie. I'm not going to sort of be able to sort of escape. And I think especially early on in the season, I sort of didn't really like how these things sort of actually didn't develop, is that there was sort of this threat of this sort of virus, which is obviously an ongoing thing throughout the season. And I really felt that, I think, in one scene where what's his name? Bob, they're sort of going to some place to get some antibiotics for their virus situation, where they're like, oh no, be careful, don't even sort of get their blood on you. That's when I sort of felt like the most scared, because I'm like, okay, not only do you have to sort of watch for them, you know, to biting you, but you actually have to watch out for the blood getting on you. And I sort of actually got freaked out. I think that's the most I got freaked out, because I'm like, damn, you know, obviously they have to kill them, but if they kill them and the blood sort of spurts on them, that's sort of even more terrifying. I'm still waiting for, you know, zombie dogs or something like that, but I'm not sure if that's actually going to sort of take place or not. But nevertheless, I think that if they sort of develop this idea a little bit further of having these zombies have more of a threat in different ways, like something as crazy as maybe, like, you know, if you breathe the same air, or they release spores, sort of like, you know, the Last of Us video game, that would also be very interesting. But another frustration of mine is that, and this sort of comes when you sort of translate books or comics or video games into a different form, and that is, there's many sort of scenes and points in the comic which are just fucking awesome, and that's why people read comics, because directorially and actingly, I'm just making up adjectives now, you can't really stuff it up, because you're reading the comic there and everything there is perfect. And at least for me, I'm like, damn, if someone could just like film this shot for shot for shot and capture the same emotion within that comic, this scene would be pretty damn good. And one of the sort of standout pictures in my head, obviously, of this story arc which we just witnessed on The Walking Dead is the governor storyline. And they did give it to us in this episode, but I was sort of expecting it to be done a little bit of a different way. And what I'm trying to get at is the last 2 episodes, episodes 6 and 7, were pretty much a waste. And this is sort of an indication that the story writing wasn't really planned very well, or they're trying to go back and do something in hindsight. You cannot go back and redeem a character that is just inherently evil. And sort of setting this up with this million daughter character. I can understand what they were trying to do, but it just wasn't ever going to work. It's like, I'm sorry, this guy's a psychopath. You can show him hugging, Smurfs and kittens and puppy dogs and painting children's faces with paint at a clown festival for all I care, but this character is just always going to be evil. And this is an indication that the story writing wasn't sort of very forward planning, or they're trying to, like I said, do something in hindsight or backtrack, and it just inherently just does not work. And normally what you do is you sort of have these scenes early on, so going forward it sort of paints everything sort of moving forward in a more sort of just the way that works. I mean, I don't even know how else to explain it, is that once you've got sort of a set idea in your head of how a character is, you can't go back and say, okay, the impact that scene had, ignore that temporarily whilst I show the good side of this governor character, and the next episode straight away, he just starts attempting to play golf with Martinez or whatever it is. It just doesn't work that way. You can't be like, oh, this character is bad. Oh, he's definitely very bad. Oh, here's a good side to him. Actually, just joking, he's bad. It reminds me of the 24, where you got Tony and he's like, oh, he's a bad guy. No, he's a good guy. No, he's a bad guy. Actually, he's a quadruple agent. No, actually, he's not. It's like just back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. You can't do that like ad nauseum. Like, yes, you can sort of set up a past where the character was once good and sort of turned bad, but you can't really sort of go back and forth, which is what they were doing for the governor. And I'm really disappointed because they really missed a good opportunity to not have the governor at all, and that was a smart move, not having him in the first half of the season. And I know the showrunner says something like, we want him to attack the prison when he is most vulnerable, when the prison is most vulnerable. However, it was just a very clunky setup. And yes, of course, these things needed to be set up. We needed to get him back to a group to attack the prison, which is a fantastic sequence in the comic, a very dark sequence in the comic. But the way it was done is just, like I said, clunky. And I think that this is a problem I'm sort of experiencing in a couple of things. Like, for instance, I'm playing Beyond Two Souls. It's just a side tangent, but I'm not really compelled to play the game that much. It's a disappointment. And there's a couple of characters in there that I can see what they're trying to do, but they're not making me care about the characters. And I might make a separate video on this. It just seems like it's I don't know, it seems like I shouldn't even have to do it, but like how to make people care about things like characters and stuff. It seems obvious, but maybe I just want to make it sort of more clear to myself. But nevertheless, I forgot where I was going with this, but it seems very clear that to make someone care about a character, you sort of have to put them in situations which you can sort of empathize with, care about, sort of understand that, I've been through similar situations. And that's mainly done through dialogue, just in this sort of cigarette smoking scene between, I think, Mitch or Mike, Alvarez, what's his name? I forgot his name, the Charlie from Fringe, basically, the blue shirt guy. Smoking a cigarette with the governor, and he's sort of telling him about his, experiences of getting abused as a child. Those are examples of scenes which make you care about the character, because, your mind's like, okay, what does that mean about the character? And I mentioned this before, like, ask yourself, what does this scene do to the plot, or what does this scene say about this character? And you do that through dialogue, and then eventually you're going to hit some, emotional notes which make you have a connection to that character. And if you're just throwing random characters in there just for setup, sure, you're going to have that sort of prison setup. However, it's going to be at the expense of not really caring about all these other characters. Like all these other, like lesbian characters or whatever, or Lily, stuff like that. They're throwing a lot of characters in the mix here, but they're all just like cardboard cut-out characters to me. Like, they're not very fleshed out. And I think that's a little bit of disorganization on the writer's part. And I know that there's a good TV show when you're watching it and you haven't even seen the characters for that long or that much, but you already feel like you know the characters a lot. And that can be done in 1, 2, or 3 episodes. And this is done through, I'm watching like Luther at the moment, which is another sort of video I have to put out soon. And of course, The Wire most obviously, and of course House of Cards as well, which is another topic altogether. In that you just watch like a couple of scenes with these characters, and automatically the acting and the writing, the casting is so damn good that it feels like you have watched like a couple of movies or TV series with them together. And The Walking Dead is exactly the opposite of that, is that you've got all these characters thrown in the mix purely to drive the plot forward, but it's done with the expense of not really caring about these characters. Going back to the topic of scenes in the comic which should have been very easily transferable to film, and this is where I think that they really wasted the opportunity to have the governor not show up at all and then just show up randomly with the tank. And if you read the comics, the scene is very awesome. He just comes out, I think, out of nowhere and just goes, kill them all. And like I said, they did mention that kill them all scene, that dialogue in the actual episode 8, which just aired. But it wasn't as good as what it was in the comics. And maybe it's an unfair comparison to that sort of comparison in the comics, but in the comics it's just awesome. He's like on top of the tank, he's like, kill them all. And here they say the same thing, kill them all. What I'm trying to say is it would have been a much better idea, in my opinion, if they hadn't showed the governor at all. They ignore all this backstory with Megan. I mean, maybe the Megan thing, okay, fair enough, I'll give him that. But just have him sort of disappear for a little while and then out of nowhere, instead of showing this lame sort of Terminator or Passion of the Christ sort of look towards the left, that he's observing the prison, but somehow these guards are not even noticing him outside the prison. Just out of nowhere, just have him show up with this tank and say, kill them all, and then from there, go into this crazy sequence. That would be awesome. I guess what I'm trying to say is, there was a lot of filler episodes here, but it's unfortunate because I think this episode here, I think most TV shows, pretty much every TV show does something right in one aspect, and then even with Dexter, with the first couple of seasons, they were awesome. But the thing is, when they're trying to sort of fill in, putting a band-aid solution over cancer, it's just not going to work, and it's obvious that it's filler. And this episode was a good example of everything just worked, and when you got something firing on all cylinders, this is an example of what drama is, and we should sort of be expecting this sort of drama. I was riveted by this episode, even though I read the comics. It was fucking awesome, but a lot of things could have been done in a better way, and I think mainly it's just too many filler episodes. I mean, I'm watching Luther at the moment, and this is the thing, like, why do they have to have like long seasons? Why can't they just have like shorter seasons which just have everything in there which is important to the story, instead of thinking, okay, crap, now we've got to sort of do all these other things in between because we've got to fill it in with something and we really have no idea what, or okay, now we have to sort of get to point A to point B, and then you got to sort of like shove it in with all this packaging thing, which just makes it seem really unnatural. And that's why TV shows like Breaking Bad are fantastic, or The Shield, where you got sort of like a logical progression that feels very organic, that not only does it show you how point A leads to point B, but it makes sense not only from the plot point of view, but on a sort of much more complicated level, admittedly, from a character point of view, where the characters are doing things which are true to their characters, they're developing in ways which are true to their sort of situation in time, which drives the plot forward, which drives the story forward, which makes for a good television show. And that's why I'm not a writer, because that is pretty hard to do. But nevertheless, I think that the season of Walking Dead ended on a high note. It's definitely a far from perfect TV show, but I'm going to keep on reading the comics because it's just a very interesting TV show. It's sort of unlike anything else on TV out there at the moment, in my opinion. And zombies and shotguns are awesome, obviously. But yeah, thank God this governor character is dead, but for those of you who have read the comics, there's other crazy things, and yeah, even the comic itself spins its wheels for a little while there. But nevertheless, I think that long term, if they sort of trim the fat out of the TV show, and I guess that's the advantage of sort of, he can sort of take the comics crap parts and cut them out and just put the good things of the TV show, even though that hasn't been done all this time. But I think the main positive note to end on is that we've got a TV show which just had a mid-season finale, which demonstrates that when you do everything right, this TV show, The Walking Dead, can actually be pretty damn dead good. That's it for me. I'm going to put out a couple more videos later just to get into the habit of, I guess, public speaking or whatever, or just obviously just single speaking here. Probably the House of Cards TV show I want to talk about, Beyond Two Souls, has been like a struggle to finish, which I didn't really expect, but I'm not enjoying this game at all. Otherwise I would have put out a video and completed already. I'm just finding a real chore to play. It's got major problems. It sort of even made me think about Heavy Rain in a separate light. And I'm watching Luther at the moment, which I don't know why, but I heard people talking about it. I thought it was about Martin Luther King. It's actually about a homicide detective in London, I believe. So it's completely different to that. But it is an example of a TV show which doesn't have any filler, and it's just such a good TV show because every TV show does feel like every TV episode within that feels like it could sort of been developed into a movie. And like other reviewers have said on IMDb, like even though it's got sort of cliches, it's done in such an original way. The title sequence is very sort of mysterious and like sleek or whatever, and the ending credit songs are just fantastic as well. So I'm very happy to have found a new TV show to watch, and I need to watch Boardwalk Empire as well. But busy times, end of year times, study times. Yeah, I don't have anything else to say except Walking Dead. You know, it disappointed me, but that mid-season finale, that's a pretty good job. I give the writers and the actors that. Alright, that's it. I'll talk to you shortly with more of these videos. Thank you.